Hello, welcome to the elizaOS Developers YouTube channel. My name is Young Algorithm. Today we are here for the 8th video, which is a CLI reference video. We're just going to speed run through all of the commands. This will be a good refresher if you have used Eliza before, or if you're very cracked and you don't want to spend time watching all of the 7 videos or read through the docs. If you're a beginner or new to Eliza or programming, I would suggest you watch the 7 videos in order to understand the foundational concepts of the elizaOS CLI. Now let's begin. So I'm just going to type in the main CLI command, elizaOS, and we can see here it's printed out our version number. We are on 1.4.2. and the first command referenced is the create command. Now, this is going to be how we create any project or plugin. If you just type elizaOS create, it's going to give you an interactive CLI flow where you can select whatever you want. If you're developing a plugin, you can select a plugin. If you are doing a project, you can do a project. And of course, if you're inside of a project and you want to put more agents in there, you can use this. Also, we support TEE projects too, so you can start from there as well. I'm just going to start a regular project. I'm going to use PG Lite, which is the local database. I'm going to use OpenAI, pop in my key there. Awesome. So let's get in there. Let's open this up in Cursor, and we can see here is our project. Here is the main area with the test plugin, our index file, and our Eliza character file. And here's our plugins array. Now, another command we have is the monorepo command. This is what you're going to want to use if you want to contribute to our core repository. For 99% of you, that's not you, but if you want to, this is an open source repo and we accept pull requests. So if you find a bug or want to build with us on it, you can, and you can just use this elizaOS monorepo command to create a local copy of the monorepo on your machine. This would be the same as just doing this GitHub command. Cool, so now we are inside of our project still. We've done create, we've done monorepo. Now it's time to do plugins. So this will show us a few things having to do with plugins. First thing it's going to do is list all the available plugins to us that we could install. So gonna do that. Here's a nice long list of plugins, and this is actually pulling from here the plugins registry. You'll notice that this is a different GitHub than our regular one. Our regular one is github.com/elizaOS/Eliza, and this one is elizaOS-plugins/registry. So you can find an up-to-date list of all the plugins here, and all the plugins themselves are in this elizaOS plugins organization. If you ever need to look into a particular plugin and see what's going on in the code, you can do that here. So I can also run this command and see what plugins are currently in my current project. If I try to run this outside of a project, it's going to give me an error. So just getting back into my project and running this command. So plugins. If we want to add or install a plugin, we can do that by just passing the plugin name afterwards. However, we can just pass this plugin to our character file and it will automatically do this step. So it's kind of not that necessary. We can also remove plugins here. And these last 2 features are experimental and as of 1.4.2 not supported, so just be careful of that. Now we're going to go here and look at our agent command. So let's run that, elizaOS agent. This will give us an error because we don't have a, sorry, if we go like this, it will give us an error because we don't have an instance running. So we're gonna go ahead and do that in another terminal. So I'm inside of my project, and here we can see that we've done create, we've done monorepo, and we've done plugins. Now we're doing agent, but we need to be running a server in order to use this. So for that, we can either use start or dev. They're exactly the same thing, but dev is going to give us more verbose logs, and it's going to hot reload when we change our project code. So why don't we start with dev, and we're going to let that server start up. You can see here the logs are more verbose than if we ran start, and we see all the tables being created, database, and the instances of Eliza. It's telling us that we can go to localhost. Here we can see the GUI, we can see our Eliza character. Here we can change all of the things about her personality and her character file in this runtime. We can see here the plugins and secrets management. Up here is model calls, memories, logs. And then we can change these things in the runtime over here. We can change the avatar, and let's go back and let's run that agent list command, and we can see that now we're getting a response because we're running dev. Now, if we want to check out some of the other commands in agent, we can get agent details, we can start an agent, and we can stop an agent. So one other thing we could do is we could go over here and we could create an agent named ASD, and then we could come here and we could start it. And I'm just gonna pass the path of that agent. So agent started successfully. Now if I list again, we see here I have 2 agents running. If I refresh, we have 2 agents. We can add them to a group together if we want and start a group chat with them. And then if I want to remove an agent, I can do it just in the same way. Oh, name. Cool. Now we run list and we see there's only one. Great. Other things we can do is use remote characters, where we use a character file that's not in the local machine, and we can also pass a port or auth tokens here. Great. I'm just gonna stop my server, and we're gonna go here to TEE. Now TEE is a wrapper for the Falla CLI, which allows you to deploy your elizaOS agents. So once you've finished your local development and you want to have your agent running on a production server, you could use something like a DigitalOcean or, of course, any cloud provider, but Falla is a really cool option because they support TEEs. And if you want to do that, then it's a good idea from the beginning to just go like this and start your project as a TEE project, because that will have all the Docker files and stuff in the project, whereas our regular Eliza project does not, so you would need to add that afterwards. So TEE is for deploying your agents to production in TEE environments. Now we can go on to start. So if we go back to here, we ran dev last time. We can run start this time, but I'm going to run it with a H. We can see here that we can just configure the ports. We can reconfigure our config file, specifically what types of models we're using, and that stuff is basically here in this .eliza folder in our project. So I'm just going to run that start, and it's going to run my server just like dev did, but it's going to be a little less verbose, and if I change stuff in the code, it's not going to hot reload the server. Cool. So now we've gotten through all of these, and we're going to go to update. Now we can run this with a check. We can see if stuff needs to be updated. So our CLI is updated and our packages could be updated. So it's saying that here are the updates that we have, and we can just run this command, and that's what the update command does. It checks for package update and for CLI update. Those are the two things. Awesome. Now let's go here. And we have test. So test is for running tests, running bun tests in a project or a plugin. So if I run elizaOS test help, there's two types of tests. There are component tests and there's end-to-end tests. So if I just run it like this, that's gonna run only the component tests. And remember, you can only run tests from projects and plugins. So a few are failing, that's okay, most are passing. Looks good. If I want to run end to end, I can do it like that. And that's gonna like spin up a database and actually kind of test things a bit more functionally than how the component tests work. Now let's go here, and we have our env. So this allows us to manage our env file from the CLI. Of course, the other way that you can manage it is here in your IDE. You can see here that because I configured OpenAI and PGLite, I see my key value pairs here. The env example file is here if you ever want to copy and paste stuff over. So like, for example, if I wanted to have Discord running, then I would copy and paste these over here and fill out these key value pairs. And because Discord is specifically imported if there is the keys in your env file, then it would automatically load that plugin for the character. And if I want to check out the help command here, then I can do stuff like list, and it's going to show me the same thing that we saw in the IDE, and we can also like update and edit them from here. Great. Now we have our dev, which we've done, and finally our publish. So publish is for only publishing plugins. I have a plugin in my desktop, so I'm just going to CD into it. And here, if I wanted to run this publish, I would just basically run it, and it would publish it to my GitHub, it would publish it to NPM, and then it would create a pull request to add that plugin to our elizaOS registry, which I showed you guys before, which is right here. And you will need to auth into GitHub and have your NPM auth done as well, so it will ask you for those things. Cool, that's a very quick speed run for the elizaOS CLI, and come back next week. We're going to do some more in-depth projects with the CLI and elizaOS v2. Thanks.